Welcome to Dare to Be Seen, brought to you by Alyssa Vulpes Productions and EDN Publishing. Join our host, Alyssa DiNapoli, aka Alyssa Vulpes, author, artist coach, hypnotherapist, singer-songwriter, and drummer, as she engages in down-to-earth, insightful, and inspiring conversations with female indie singer-songwriters around a virtual campfire. We shall discuss the lessons, songs, and personal stories of women who dare to be seen, scratching beneath the surface to give you an insider look into what makes their chosen career sometimes challenging and yet always inescapably compelling. So let's get the show started.
Welcome to another episode of Dare to Be Seen. I'm your host, Elisa DiNapoli, aka Alyssa Vulpes, and today's episode features Kofy Brown, an Oakland, California, US musician and singer-songwriter who has been a pioneering force in the Bay Area hip-hop and soul scene. The new record, Child of Providence, is a delicious and eclectic assortment of songs rendered by our incredibly tight band, the KBB. Kofy is also a drummer and a singer in Skip the Needle, and a bassist and singer in Sistas in the Pit. Now, before we meet our guest for today, if you are an artist who needs to find a way forward, get your project going, or figure out how to turn your creative, artistic, or performance skills to a new venture, I'd like to invite you to go to tinyurl.com/dare-to-kickstart, where you can book a free Kickstart Your Project session with me. In this session, you will get reconnected to your vision, uncover exactly where you're stuck, come up with practical next steps so you feel fired up to start your creative projects. Just head on over to tinyurl.com/dare-to-kickstart. And now, here's a guest for today.
Vulnerability is frightening. And especially if you aren't used to really like showing yourself. But that's what people respond to. And people see it, they sense it, they feel it. And when you can open up yourself in that way, that's like a magnet, you know? And people get it. And they're like, it draws them in.
I wanna be with you like water is rain, be the same. Come inside.
You know, this is a whole culture of social media and how people view you and influencers and your brand, right? People come, young people, marketers, right? They're like, okay, what's your brand? I'm like, what's my brand? I don't know, fuck.
Joy.
My brand is, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna fucking rock the house. And my intention is to blow your mind. That's my intention. I'm gonna do whatever I can do to make you go, that shit was off the chain. That was off the hook.
You lifted my soul and helped me to soar. Helped me to soar.
If you're all consumed with your brand, now you're trying to be this thing that you've constructed, right? Your construct is how you ask and frame the question. Is the question, who am I? And how can I best represent who I really am? Or who do I want to be? And who do I think people will like?
Like never before, wide open. So walk on through my door and let me see you. I let you see me too. I can't help myself. I can't help myself. I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful you are in my life. I couldn't love you no more. And yes, I want you. I've made the choice. I'm
So let's welcome Kofy Brown to the show. I'm so excited to have you on the show, Kofy. You are a pioneering force in the San Francisco's Bay Area in the area of hip hop and soul and rock. So I know you've been on the scene for a very long time. I know your first EP was in 1992, and now we're in 2020. So yeah, a long, long time. So welcome to the show. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. That makes me feel kind of ancient, but it's
Oh no, that's not what I was meaning to do. I just wanted to let our listeners know that we've got a real force here in the studio, and I'm looking forward to really find out what it's like. I've had so much experience really in the music industry for so long. But before we get started on that, I'd like to share a curious fact with everybody because Kofy was at Howard University at the same time as Kamala Harris. And if for anyone who doesn't know, she's an American politician who served as junior senator from California since 2017. And recently, she was also a Democratic vice presidential nominee in 2020. So did you actually meet Kamala Harris?
I did not. I did not. But I thought it was funny because I was talking to a couple of friends who we went to Howard, and we were trying to figure out if it was at the same time. And so she graduated my freshman year. I think that was 86. And so it was just kind of, it was just a kick, that she was at Howard at the same time, but I never met her. And we didn't run in the same circles. She was older than me.
So I know that you've been involved with hip hop bands and soul and rock bands. You've got your own as well, and you've also supported pretty famous people like Iggy Pop and the Stooges and Macy Gray and Bad Brains, to mention just a few. And so you've had loads of experience. Is there anything that stuck with you out of those experiences?
So to answer that, it is not all kind of stuck together because those three people that you named, all three was with my band Sistas in the Pit. And that was, I started out, as you mentioned, in 92 with my own band, the Kofy Brown Band. And we were doing what I call like pioneer work. There wasn't a lot of hip hop, funk, and soul bands. There were a lot of hip hop artists, but they didn't have full bands. So by the time I reached Sistas in the Pit, I had maybe 12 years doing my own band, and it felt like work. So I just wanted to do something where I could be a lot less music business and more music. And in Sistas in the Pit, I was the bass player and vocalist, along with Anita Lofton and Aida Grant, who's the drummer. Anita was the guitar player. And we all wrote and we all sang, but I didn't have to carry the load of it being the Kofy Brown Band, and which made it easier and it made it fun again, And so those shows, I think it was Iggy Pop, I'm sorry, Macy Gray. We opened up for Macy Gray at the Mountain Winery here in Saratoga, outside of the Bay Area. Beautiful venue, one of my favorites to go see artists to this day. And it was just super exciting because Macy was kind of super hot at the time. I mean, she's hot right now, but she had her hits going, and we got a chance to open for her audience. She was kind of in and out. We met her. She was gracious, she was kind, but she was like in and out. So it wasn't a place where we hung with Macy. And we didn't learn a lot. We just were on a big stage in front of people and rocked it, and I was seasoned by then, but this was a new group. We were doing something, people thought Sistas in the Pit was like punk rock, but opening for Iggy Pop was a whole different thing. Iggy Pop is an icon, right? And he was behind the stage and watched our first show. We went on tour with him, and it was at the 930 Club in DC, which that's where I'm actually from. So my family was trying to get in, and they couldn't get in because it was sold out. And he watched the set, and we got on that tour from Mike Watt, the bass player of Black Flag and Kira from Black Flag, they had a band called Dose. And so we had met him in this band called Banyan with Steve Perkins on drums. It was just like all star. And Mike Watt just loved the Sistas in the Pit and got us to open for Iggy Pop. And they watched our show, and Iggy was like, you girls rock, but your instruments sound like shit. So he was like, you need better instruments, basically, But we were the opening band, and so we were renting cheap shit because we had no money, And but after that, Mike was like, you can play through my rig. And he was a bass player. I'm a bass player. I let him play my bass. And now I'm playing through like David Eaton, 8 410s. He cut off half. So I was playing through 4 410s, and they were so kind to us. They were so generous to us. Iggy had a birthday in April, and my birthday's in April. So we sort of celebrated it. And I have a great picture of me and Iggy Pop, celebrating his 60th birthday together in Detroit. Not in Detroit, sorry, in Philadelphia. Detroit was one of the places that we did not open for them because he's from Detroit, and he was like, I wanted to give this to a local band from Detroit, which we totally respected that. So I think we just learned from Iggy that, and he said this to us, he was like, I have a long career, and maybe I shouldn't because I did a lot of things that, could have ended my career earlier. However, I learned from that. And what I know now is to just treat people with respect and kindness, and that gets you a long way. And and he was like, you guys, you're awesome. You're open, you're sweet, you're kind people, and keep doing that. Keep being professional, keep just writing from the heart. And he shared this with us. He didn't have to, he kicked it with us on the outside the bus in Denver. And so his generosity, his kindness, his words stuck with me, and it was just all love experience with Iggy Pop, the whole crew. That's when the Ashton brothers, they were still alive, just playing with them and them joking around with us. And that was just wonderful. And Bad Brains, that was a trip. That was at Slim's. We opened for them, but they were hands off. And those cats been through it, they're from DC, I'm from DC. They were like pioneering, Black punk rockers. And so we didn't get a chance to hang with them, but that audience was just, they were like Bad Brains enthusiasts. We got out there and we were like, let's just hit them hard so they don't boo us off the stage, And that's the one thing about Sistas in the Pit, man. We fucking rock. But we came out there and slapped them in the face, and we had Black Girls. That was one of the songs we used to start with. Black girls rocking the microphone, ain't got no place to call our own. Just gotta do what we feel inside. Should we stay or should we run it high? And then we were like, and then and we rocked. That was the thing. It's like they looked at us, was like, oh shit, And from that first song, we had them. We were just like, we rammed it home. And then Bad Brains was like, all right. It just set the tone for them. And then they came on and just went crazy, HR jumping on the fucking stage. So that was just a memorable moment because these were cats who, pioneers, brothers doing fucking punk rock and, from DC, being from DC. But those three, they were memorable because of the interaction and because of the experience with the audience. And I think because of the type of band Sistas in the Pit, all of my bands, we're not one of those like show fluff bands. Never have been. We're like old school, we go out there and we're going to perform and we're going to play music from the heart and soul. And we're just going to give it up. And hopefully people like the music, but we were just going to give you our earnest emotions, our earnest creation.
It sounds like what really is important is also the attitude. You mentioned kindness, being kind and not coming from a place of ego, coming from a place of wanting to share from the heart and being real. Is that what you think made it possible for you to keep going for so long? Or if not, what made it possible?
Yeah, that's a good question because to me, longevity is about a few things. It's about being professional and taking your craft seriously. And so, I mean, even before 92, like I've been playing keys and bands since I was 16, even younger, really. But my attitude has always been to show up on time and treat what I'm doing like a job, treat it like a profession, treat it like something that I respect because this is what I want to do with my life. And that's how I've always felt, right? And absolutely authenticity, just being true to myself and believing that what I have to offer, my voice is valid and that's what I have instinctively. I mean, that's all I really have is just who I am. And so that's where I'm going to create from and that's the place I'm going to deliver my music from. And I think when you show up at clubs, you show up on time, you do your sound check, you don't trash the place, you do what you say you're going to do and just respect other people's times. Really, people are left with a good feeling. And not only that, it's like you're respectful, you do your thing, you do what you're supposed to do, and then you get on the stage and you give it up. You act like you want to be there. You you engage with people who are there, whether it's 10 people, whether it's 100 people, whether it's 10,000 people. You engage with people and you appreciate them for showing up and listening to your creations. And I think that in itself, professionalism, authenticity, and engaging with people, that's it. You can go on forever because people, if they don't like you, they'll respect you. you know, like they may not like me, but they were like, well, they didn't trash my place. They got here on time. They did what they said they were going to do. That music's not for me, but people enjoyed it. Or yeah, actually, I can invite them back because I know what I'm going to get. They're going to do what they say they're going to do.
I would totally agree because, I mean, if you treat it like a job, you wouldn't go to an office and trash the place, would you?
I know so many artists who do that. So many bands who they just dog out the sound person. They trash the venue. They drink too much. I mean, and it's a lot of people. And it's just crazy. I'm like, what for? What does it even get you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder if that's about the image, they're trying to portray.
Yeah, maybe, right? They heard or read or saw some sh- film that they're supposed to act this way, and that makes them cool or whatever.
Yeah, but that's not very authentic, is it?
No, and you won't get asked back. I mean, I talked to club owners, booking agents. They're like, "Oh, I'll never book that band again." Or people ask, "Oh, why can't I get these gigs?" I'm like, "Well, how did you treat the booking agent?" you know? And they're like, "Oh, he was a dick or whatever." And I'm like, "Well, you get what you give." And that's just karma. That's just life.
And how different was it when you first started to how it is now? Have you noticed some big changes?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I guess I'm old. I'm gonna call it. I'm old school because I'm young. You know what I mean? Meaning I feel good and I can do my thing. And if I get on the stage today with some young cats who are in their teens and 20s, I'm like, you better come with it because this is what I do. You know what I'm saying? But here's the difference, right? There was no internet in 92, 93, 94, 95. There was no social media. There was none of that. And so you really had to go out there and bring people into the club, work for your crowd. There was no instantaneous, showing people on Facebook like, oh, here's my this, here's my that. I mean, it's so different now. And I don't know if it's easier or if it's harder, truthfully, you know, but so that's one thing. And I think, the younger generation approaches it different. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing because, I believe in progress, but what do feel that there's a disconnect in a way. And maybe this is technology. I can't put my finger on it, but I see a lot of young people when they perform, it's like they don't like go all the way out there. They don't like give it up. And I think part of it is because of social media, maybe like they're afraid of how their image is going to look or how they're going to be perceived, or maybe it's a culture now with the young folks that they're just too cool for school in a way. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, what are they doing? You know, it's like they don't know how to interact, or maybe it's a lack of social skills. So I don't know if that's what you were asking me on the artistic level, or like on the club scene. Right now we're in a pandemic, so the clubs are closed, right? So, but I can tell you, I have friends who like the Ivy Room in the Bay Area. They book all sorts of acts, and we talk, and they're like, they'll say it's funny because if the act is older, I know what I'm going to get. They're going to come here. They're going to have their equipment. They're not going to whine. They're going to, if it's technical problems, whatever, they're used to it. They're going to do the show, and we're going to, they're going to get through it, and it's going to be all good. If they're a young band, it's like they expect things to go perfectly, or if they don't, they just complain, complain, complain. And these club owners are like, what do they expect? Shit happens sometimes, and it's like they can't get over it.
What you were talking about to me sounds like not fully daring to be vulnerable and express yourself with authenticity. So the word authenticity came back a couple of times, and I wanted to ask you what it means to you.
Authenticity, what that means to me, it's just being yourself. And yeah, I think you nailed it when you talk about vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is frightening. It's and especially if you aren't used to really like showing yourself. But that's what people respond to. And people see it, they sense it, they feel it. And when you can open up yourself in that way, that's like a magnet, and people get it, and they're like that, it draws them in. And I do believe that this younger crop coming up, they have this shield, and maybe they need to have the shield. I don't know, but it's something about authenticity, vulnerability, being yourself. This is a whole culture of social media and how people view you, and influencers and your brand, right? People come, young people, marketers, right? They're like, okay, what's your brand? I'm like, what's my brand? I don't know. Fuck. Kofy Brown's my name, and go look at my discography. You know what I mean? I don't know. My shit is like, oh, my brand is I'm gonna come and I'm gonna fucking rock the house, and my intention is to blow your mind. That's my intention. I'm gonna do whatever I can do to make you go, that shit was off the chain. That was off the hook. That's my brand. They have a real thing around that, right? And maybe that closes off that person to their real self. Like, so if you're all consumed with your brand, now you're trying to be this thing that you've constructed, right? You're a construct.
I think you nailed it there, because in social media you get all these pictures of a perfect self and a perfect life, and then if you are thinking about that while you're performing, well, you can't be free, can you?
That's right. That's right. Am I giving off the thing that I created? Am I cool enough? Am I wearing the colors? Do my shades look good? I mean, yeah, you know, and I mean, I get it. I get it. Especially like back in the day, I was a bit flamboyant. I still am too. But that is who I mean, that's true to me. In high school, I was flamboyant, and a part of it, but in the set, it's like these clothes, this hat, these glasses, this outfit. By the middle of my set, all of that's off. And it's just about rocking. And, I'm with my band. I'm like, y'all here? Y'all here? Everybody's here. Then I'm with the crowd. Y'all here? Y'all having a good time? We feeling this? Let's do this. And it's about that moment.
And what I'm hearing as well is that it's the way in which you present yourself depends on what you want to express, not the other way around. So it's like clothes. You wear clothes because they represent who you are, rather than thinking, okay, who do I want to represent? And then you wear the clothes.
Right. So it's a perspective. It's how you ask and frame the question. Is the question, who am I? And how can I best represent who I really am? Or who do I want to be? And who do I think people will like? Because that's a different thing. And that is so hard, because who the hell knows? I mean, how will you ever know what people will like? But you do have who you are. That's what you got. So I would bet on me 100% of the time versus betting on if I could be this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also if you're trying to people please, well, you're never going to be free because you're a slave to what other people like or what you imagine other people may like or not like. And it's also fraught with anxiety because you could get it wrong. And also I think the other thing, it's about why are you doing this? You know, are you doing this because you're trying to express something, a message, who you are, something you really care about? Or is it for the money? And you know, there's nothing wrong with making money. We all need to make money, right? But if you come from that point of view, from the point of view of, okay, I need to make money, then you're going to look at it in a very, very different way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what? I was just thinking about what you were saying. And I was talking with some friends of mine. We had this kind of creative group. We get together on Zoom like every couple weeks. And and I brought it up. I said, you know what? I'm gonna make an avatar of myself. I'm just gonna make up a whole thing. Now, for me, I'm doing it for fun, right? Because I've had a very long career, and I'm interested in other things. And now I think it would be fun to create a personality, right? Now, this personality is a part of who I am, but I'm doing it because it's fun and I don't necessarily like social media. Meaning I like it fine, but I don't want to keep up with it. I don't want to be posting and I don't have the time or the energy or the desire to like do the thing, right? But I was like, well, if I can create this alter ego, create this personality type, and this personality type, part of the gimmick, it's a gimmick, it's a complete facade, and I know this, right? Is that this person doesn't care what they post on social media. Because that's got to be part of it, because I don't care. Now, we talk about intention, right? My intention is to do it for fun. It's not to like try to make money off of it or try to do anything. It's just, it's sheer creativity. It's just fun. But I don't think I would perform live as that person. Or if I did, I would make it clear that this is a performance art piece. You know what I mean? Or is different. To me, I see that as different.
Well, I think artists that manage to engage their audience, they are engaging their audience because they're being real. They're being who they really are. And that happens to be something that other people relate to. And also, I think that people can only relate to what actually is real because they can tell, you know, if something's fake or if something is a gimmick, but it comes from, you know, it's a joke maybe that the artist is interested in making.
You know who is great at that, I think? And I'm not even a fan, but I can respect kind of the artistry of it, is Lady Gaga. I think that her whole thing is a facade. I think it was intentional. I think she was like, I'm just going to be crazy out there. I can sing, I can play, I'm a real musician, but I'm going to do something else. Now, I'm going to have me in it, but this is going to be a whole little thing. And I think that people connected with that because they understood that she knew that she was playing a part, right? And they saw that, oh, she's totally playing a part, but her realness, how she connects with her audience, her little monsters or whatever you call them, I think that is real. I think that she's like, all right, y'all, we're going to do this thing here. We're going to, you know, fight for your self-esteem, fight for who you really are. I'm an artist creating this whole thing, but I see you. And she sees her people, right? And she can break her facade, and they see her when she breaks her facade, and they also see her when she's putting on a meat suit or whatever, right? And I think that's the difference. I think she gets it that she's playing a part. I think some artists, and we all know these people, right? You see them and they are playing a part, but they're not in on the secret. They're not saying to their audience, you know, I'm just fucking around. I'm not this person, right? They think that they're really this pop star, right? And it's like it doesn't come across because it's like, dude, what are you doing? Or this is so whack. You got to know that this is whack. So it's like you got to know that it's an act, and then that's still being that's still being authentic. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like being, an actor who plays a particular role and then starts actually believing that they are that person.
Right. It's like, come on. And it's a lot of people. I think it's a lot of entertainers like that, you know?
Yes, it can be attractive because, perhaps it's a role that everybody likes. And so it's easier to be that person than to be yourself, because yourself is a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, no. You're absolutely right. Because we're complex, right? And we're not always one way.
Funny that you should mention Lady Gaga. You must be psychic, because I was actually thinking about her as well. Like when you were speaking, I was thinking, oh yes, like Lady Gaga. And I mean, she did go to art college, and I think that really did inform her music. For what concerns you, is there a message in your music? Is there something that comes to you all the time, or you notice themes, or is it different every time?
I think what is consistent with my music is that there's always going to be some social commentary in that. And yeah, I mean, from every record that I make, there's always going to be some social commentary of the time, um, and some expression of of my experience in this culture, and my experience, black gay woman, right? And so that's going to come through. Maybe it's about being black, maybe it's about being gay, maybe it's about being a woman, maybe it's about being an underdog, maybe so that theme runs through my music. And it's funny because I have this lightness to me. They call me the joy spreader. I'm all about love and joy, and I have this natural optimism to me. But the reality is, like, I had a lot of, like, hardships and death. My pops died when I was very young, and uncles, and so I have this other side in my life that musically it comes out a lot of times. And so I I tend to write music that's very somber, and I have to intentionally get out of that mood. However, music as a child for me has always been a way to express that side of me, because it didn't really come out in my personality. Like, if I'm just going to meet you, or if you meet me, I know my energy is up, and that's real. That's just in me. And sometimes it's just hard for us, and I think this is just true, because I've thought about this a lot, that somberness and that sadness or sorrow part of me just come doesn't express itself when I'm just hanging out and talking to people. But as soon as I start to play a bass line, or a keyboard line, or musically, I just tend to gravitate to these somber chords, and that's where I feel comfortable expressing that part of me.
So you're using music to express your experience in a way that you wouldn't really be able to do otherwise.
100%. And for that, I am ever grateful. I mean, I'm really, like, so grateful that I found a way to express that.
I want to ask you a question, even though I know it is difficult to express that. But what has your experience been as a woman, as a gay and black woman in the music industry?
Well, for me, it's been ups and downs, but each person has a different way of dealing with it, right? And so I'm sure it has been a barrier. And I say that because I know it has. And sometimes it's been blatant and obvious, that people were putting up this barrier, this like no to me. But I my personality, again, I don't see that. I'm like, okay, asshole, keep going. Okay, that's bullshit. Keep going. Okay. Oh, that was really some bullshit. That was like, fuck that. Keep going. And so it's hard for me to answer that question specifically, because that is not how I operate. That is not my mode of operation. And it has never been. And I grew up in a time where, like, I've seen a cross burnt on someone's yard. I've been blatantly called the N word, from white folks, meaning it to discriminate and be racist and be terrible to a child, you know? So I'm like, yeah, there's some fucking racist assholes in the world who want to stop me. I know this. And I'm just gonna keep on moving. I got to keep on moving, keep my spirits high. That is really my attitude is like, fuck them. I mean, I've been on the road. People didn't want to pay me, and I'm like, all right, I had these dudes in my band, my band, they were dudes, fortunately, big dudes. And I'm like, yo, if you don't pay us, that means we can't sleep in the hotel. And I don't think these dudes want to sleep on the van floor. So what's up, And they're just standing there like, you gonna pay us.
It's very sad that this still happens to this day and age, and I myself find it incredible. But I do really appreciate your attitude, because it's not what happens to us, but it's how we react to it.
Absolutely, 100%. It's absolutely that. Stuff is gonna happen to you, but it's how you deal with it, how you clean yourself up, how you manage it, right? You can't control it. I mean, we have little control over most things, you know? And so it's like, what do we do with our lives? What do we do with what we can do?
Yeah, we could choose to see ourselves as victims, or we could choose to see ourselves as change makers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have the power. I believe that. Don't get me started on like, I do though. I believe that in our mind, we don't have to believe all of the thoughts that we have, number one. They're just thoughts. And sometimes we have trash thoughts, and we got to know that that's a trash thought and throw it in the trash. And we have to figure out a way to like trust and invest in ourselves and know that this is the path. Like you get all these choices all the time. Oh, this is I'm making money at this. But am I happy? Do I enjoy it? Does it bring me joy? Does it lift me up? And if it doesn't, then you got to get out of that situation, because that will eat your fucking soul alive. And this is what's to me beautiful about being a musician, an independent musician, right? If you start early enough and you get out there and you get told no. So what's the obstacle? The obstacles, Elise, are people telling you no, rejection at every turn, and you still keep doing it. You're like, record companies, I've sat in MCA's office, Sony's office, Capitol Records, Interscope. I mean, all of these, they like the music, but we're not sure if we can market you. I'm like, that's cool. I'm going up to Canada. You know what I mean? And if you get accustomed to people saying no and going forward anyway, then you can't be stopped. And I think that we have to make choices to believe in ourselves and not get laid out when people tell us no, or if we get rejected, or if something bad happens to us. I'm not saying don't take time to recuperate, heal, strengthen your soul, strengthen your core, and then keep moving forward. Because this is the only life I know I have, right? And I'm going to fucking live it until it's done.
It's a great attitude, because, I mean, of course, these things aren't right, and of course, these things must change. But I believe that if we go against rather than for something, if we are just reactive rather than proactive, we actually start getting what we don't want. It's like saying, the war on drugs. It's like, yeah, no one wants the situation. But if we say, oh, let's go against drugs, we're going to get more of it. If we instead say we want to be proactive, we want to create an environment that people don't need the drugs to start with, then we might get somewhere. I like also your attitude about rejection, because really rejection is often not personal. It's nothing to do with you. And I think that's the mistake that we make. We think it's about us. The person is saying basically, I'm not good enough. But really they're just saying, you're not for me. Or maybe they are prejudiced. Maybe they are prejudiced. But even if they are, that's their problem. And if we then take it on board and we get angry, then we are only hurting ourselves. And if we think that it's a failure, well, it is going to be a failure, but actually it's not a failure until you quit.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. It's not a failure until you quit. Rejection has nothing to do with you personally. It's just not what they wanted or needed or liked. And that's We all have that, right? We all, I don't like strawberry, but I love butter pecan. Strawberry is like, I got plenty of people who like me, right? It's like, it has nothing to do with strawberry. It's just my personal taste. And absolutely, like if we're against things, then that's the signals we're sending out, negative, against, negative, against. But what are you for? If you're for life, if you're for joy, if you're for, performing and creation and sharing and generosity, then that's what you're going to attract in your life. And so everything you said, I'm amen, sister.
I mean, have you always been this optimistic and have you always had this attitude, or is it something that has grown through the years?
Yes and yes. I'm a natural optimist. I was born with that, and I'm lucky and I'm grateful. However, I have also learned how to really magnify that, and I feel like, I've been fortunate in my life. I've gone through some transformations that really helped me, helped me to manifest this positivity in a real concrete way. And it's like now my life is fucking beautiful. I am so grateful and so blessed. And I get to create music and art and play music with my friends and my love, and my dog is sitting out there. And not that I don't have things that happen to me, but my life is fucking beautiful. And one, I see it that way, right? I could see all the shit that's going on because, oh, trust, 2020 got some shit for you. But I see the beauty in it too. So I have learned to really like utilize that optimism and to, for lack of a better word, exploit it. Like, oh, this is who I am. People ask me sometimes who don't know me, my neighbors, right? I'm walking down the street with my dog. They're like, oh, hey, Kofy, what's up? I was curious, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm a magician. They laugh, because that's who that's what I call myself now. I'm a magic maker. And I say that because I have made an intentional choice in my life, probably about the last 8 years, to live the life I want, not to wait. I remember saying, "Oh, I can't wait till I'm old. I'm gonna be the kookiest old lady you ever seen in your life, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm there," meaning I'm free. I don't give a shit what anyone cares about me. I care about me. And I have a circle of friends that care about me. And I got a dog that cares about me. And I got bandmates that care about me. And I got a partner that cares about me. I got family that cares about me. If I can think it and I'm like, oh, I want to fucking score this movie. And then bam, I got this movie to score. I'm like, that's dope. Or like, I'm working on these projects that I love. And I have found a way to have this beautiful life, and I'm just grateful for it. And I got my little gratitude journal going, and life right now is good. Now some shit could go down in 10 minutes. And I'd be like, well, you know what? I have had some transformational events in my life. They've happened because I have had the fortune to take time to think about what I really want.
So are you saying that you have been focusing your attention on what you want rather than what you don't?
Absolutely. And that focus brings more focus. And so it's like when you start living for intention, I'm waking up and I'm like, okay, I'm grateful for life. I got a breath. Now, what do I want to do with this life? Now that's a question now. And now you have to answer it. And then you have to think about, well, what do I really enjoy? Is it music? What kind of music? Is it the music I'm currently doing, or is it some different kind of music? What am I seeking? Do I want to learn more? Do I want to go to school? Do I want to, be in do I want to learn to garden? Like, what brings me joy? And I don't think a lot of times, and this for several reasons, right? But we don't ask ourselves those questions and then really ponder it, right? It's like some years ago, I said I had a day gig, I was selling software, and it was cool because in sales, if you hit your quota, and this was enterprise software sales, so these are big sales, you hit your quota, people are like, do whatever you need to do. You just brought me in $1 million or whatever, so do you, you know? So I got again lucky, but also the advice of my mom. She said, if you ever get lost, go into sales. All you really have to do is listen, be able to communicate with people, and figure the problem out. You're smart, you're bright, you can do that no matter what. So I was like, okay, I'm making good money, and I would get like a month off to go on tour. So that it was cool. But it was like, this is too much time making these people money. I just want to do my own thing. So I said, I'm going to go on sabbatical. And I just created that. I just said it one day. And I was like, what? And then I started journaling. And then I got obsessed with going on a sabbatical. I didn't know what the fuck a sabbatical really was. But I was like, I'm going to take a sabbatical. I just kept writing it and writing it and writing it until I made that shit happen. I wrote a proposal to the dude I work for. He was like, I guess you got to do what you got to do. And it was hilarious. But at that moment, that's when I realized I can do whatever I want to do. And I took the sabbatical, 2.5 months driving around the States in a little 13-foot camper, me and my partner and my dog, Hattie Mae at the time. And we just drove and I wrote a little book, about those adventures, and that changed my life. I didn't go back. I went back to say I'm not coming back. I'm like, I can't now.
Yeah, you followed your heart rather than the fear.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I said invest in yourself. Because when you really take that leap, opportunities open themselves that were there, but you were busy over here thinking that this was what you had to do. And the shit that you love was over here. Like, if you just turn around, here I am, and you could do this.
It's a change of attitude, isn't it? Instead of thinking, oh, some special people get to do what they like, but not me, you think, well, actually, I can. And the moment you start thinking, I can, doors open.
Yes. Yeah, it's like there's a saying, right? The universe is conspiring to your best interest, something like that. I don't know, but there is something to like the law of attraction. Like all of these things that people talk about, I don't know about that, right? I don't know. But what I do know from my life's example, and this is like with music, right? I got little like nephews and nieces and kids in my life, right? And they're like, I want to play, I want to play. They're like, oh, I can't play. I'm like, that's because you haven't practiced. I said, if you just practice, then you'll be able to play. But you don't come into the world knowing how to master anything, right? So experience shows you. And so what I've learned from practicing it, right? Practicing and practicing, living and living, is that the more I focus on what I want and the intention that I want, that's what I get. I see that when I focus on something and I declare it and I want it and I say, this is what I'm going to get, it happens, then a person like me is going to keep doing that and just keep doing that. And at least it just keeps happening and keeps happening. So fuck it. I'm a magician now.
So, on that note, as a magician, what have you brought out into the world? I know you've got a new record coming up.
I got my baby, the child of Providence. That child of Providence. Okay, so I got to tell this story. See, you got me on a roll now. I'm appreciating your questions, but I have a great grandfather. His name is Providence Powers. I was like, that's a name, Providence Powers. I was sitting down in my living room, and the thought occurred to me that I could be somebody's dream. maybe Providence, who was born as an enslaved person who lived through the Emancipation Proclamation and freedom, but got his freedom, was one of the few people to own land in North fucking Carolina. And his great great granddaughter left DC on her own, came out to Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area, and is thriving, being a creative. And it dawned on me that maybe I'm his dream, you know? And then the name Providence, it was like one of the definitions of Providence, let me see if I can remember, is timely preparation for future eventualities. Timely preparation for future eventualities. And I just laughed at that shit because I have always said my music, that's going to be my insurance. When I'm fucking old, my music is going to be played and people are going to be re-recording my shit. Kind of like Dolly Parton, I Will Always Love You, and Whitney Houston sang her song. And she's still talking about how Whitney made her so rich, you know? And so, like, right now, I'm like, oh, I'm a child of Providence Powers, literally, and Providence. Timely preparation for future eventualities. I knew this shit was going to get crazy, you know? And so, what am I creating? So much, you know? It's like Skip the Needle with my pals, my buddies. You know, we got this music that's out. This right here, 20 by 20. This is coming out November 14th, I think. I have a song on it from the Child of Providence record, Love, 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 which that was released April 10th right in the beginning of COVID. So shit was all crazy, you know, but I did a little Facebook thing and people responded kindly and went to my PayPal and, you know, hooked me up, Bandcamp. You can buy my record on Bandcamp, Kofy Brown. And now I'm working on music with my buddy Julie Wolf, who co-produced my record, and we're doing some music for Tanya's Kitchen Table. That's going to be on OWN, you know, and she's like blowing up, and it's like all of this music and writing, and then with Skip the Needle, we're working on this futuristic kind of sci-fi ode to Octavia Butler. I'm going to do this play called Weightless. It's like a rock opera. It's so much. My plate is full. It's exciting, you know? And I'm just looking at my vision boards right here. And it's just like, yeah, you know, magic is on there, you know, feels good, passions, a gorgeous future, love, sit down, be humble. You know, it's like the balance, right? And shit, and 2020 ain't even over, and this is like a crazy year. But you know, no matter what, the election, I can't even go there. I'm just like, no matter what, because I think about like my ancestry, we were enslaved people. So if this asshole gets another term, I'm not going to be a fucking slave. So I know, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be terrible, but I will survive. A whole bunch of us will continue to resist, you know? If the courts try to reverse Roe v. Wade, or if they try to, to take away rights for LGBTQ, we just going to keep fighting. I mean, I'm going to live. So if everyone was like, I'm going to live, I'm going to do the things I love, I'm going to be kind and generous and accountable and show up and fucking smell the roses and produce music that I love, be the person who I am. If everybody chose that, shit, we'd be good.
You know, I wish you could see my face. I've been smiling for the last half an hour.
Good. Me too. You can see my face, I think.
Yeah. So I think it's really time to show our listeners some of your beautiful music. And you were saying you were going to play us live a song, and I'll just let that happen now.
the hands of time, they last forever. Even though we surely won't, we act as if we have forever to do whatever the hell we want. As seasons change, the rains they pour, the earth rattles, she rocks and rolls. We are just these puny beings poisoning our paradise on a stroll. I feel awake, I have ideas, so many years they roll on by. Ash to dust, I live, I must, to seek to learn. Sometimes I burn, but through it all, and there's more to come, I hope to live, redeem my soul. Truth or dare, I'll tell it all. My pain, my shame, my family's fall from grace. My sin is that I loved a girl and not a boy. As I was taught, I was bad and I was wrong. A sinful child running through my thoughts. I had to leave, I had to love, to be more free, to feel alive. So I set off unto the unknown to explore myself and be fully grown. But like a pioneer, a toe trotter, a wandering wolf, a soul survivor of my own dreams, I did not fail, I did not perish, I have survived. For so long I wore the veil. When I tore it off, I stumbled, I fell, bruised and hurt. I finally got up, transformed myself, and here I am at it again. At it again. Now I'm living a life I truly adore. In gratitude I blossom much more. A magical woman, a cosmic child. I howl with the wind, I roll with the tides. I believe it all, I doubt it all. I've danced with Mother Earth, I've knelt with the sun. Come heaven or hell, I'm just energy. From mom and pop, their seed, voila, here is me. Here is me.
Thank you for that. That was awesome. And thank you so much for this really, truly inspiring interview, Kofy. It's been a real pleasure for me.
Likewise, me too. This has been fun. And Elisa, I appreciate your questions, your thoughtfulness, and that you're doing this. So I that's awesome. Thank you for having me. This has been good.
That was my guest, whom I'd like to thank once again for coming to the show. Every week, I'll be chatting to fantastic indie performers to uncover what it really takes to be a female independent singer-songwriter in this day and age, and how we can support one another to keep shining our light onto the world through our creative endeavors. So make sure you don't miss out by subscribing to Dare to Be Seen and follow us on socials at Elisa Vulpes and at Artist Creativity Coach. I've been your host, Elisa Di Napoli, aka Elisa Vulpes. Thank you for listening, and please do support the podcast by leaving a review of the show or buying me a coffee on daretobeseenpodcast.com.
That's all for this episode of Dare to Be Seen. Join the conversation on daretobeseencommunity.com and help us create an empowering community of independent female singer-songwriters who support one another. For show notes, resources, and information on today's episode, visit daretobeseenpodcast.com. And remember to shine your own unique light onto the world. It needs it.